Okay, so let's jump right in with a pretty radical idea. For years, we've all been taught to scale our infrastructure based on things like CPU usage or traffic. But what if that's just fundamentally the wrong way to look at it? Today, we're going to talk about a new kind of agent, one that scales your cloud resources based on what's actually in your bank account, your revenue.
And this is the central question, isn't it? I mean, we've built these incredible, amazing systems that can react to 1 million users in milliseconds, which is awesome. But what's the point if those users aren't actually making you money? We're going to challenge this huge assumption that more traffic always equals more success. Instead, we're going to talk about tying our tech directly to the financial health of the business.
Now, before we start tearing down the old model, let's be fair. The whole concept of autoscaling was, and it still is, a massive leap forward for building apps that are resilient and efficient.
And the reasons for it are totally solid. You look at the AWS docs, and it's all there. Autoscaling gives us better fault tolerance because it can replace unhealthy instances on the fly. It gives us better availability by matching our server capacity to traffic. And of course, better cost management because you're only paying for what you actually use. It really is the bedrock of the modern cloud.
Okay, so what's really cool about this slide is it shows that standard feedback loop we all know. You get a backlog in a queue, CloudWatch sees it, and a policy tells the autoscaling group to spin up more servers. It's this beautiful, self-regulating technical system. But do you see what's missing? There is absolutely no connection to the business reality. Yet.
And that brings us right to the core of the problem, what digital systems architect Stephen Vodley calls the architectural fallacy. It's this hidden and honestly pretty dangerous delusion at the heart of how we build pretty much everything online.
I mean, that's a pretty heavy statement, right? The delusion he's talking about is this idea that if we just accelerate our inputs, more ad span, more servers, more AI-generated content, we'll automatically get the outcomes we want. But the evidence, well, it suggests the exact opposite might be happening.
So here's the key distinction. We obsess over scaling for inputs like CPU load and traffic spikes, because that's what all our tools are built for. But while we're doing that, we're completely ignoring the business outcomes that actually determine if we survive. Things like profitability, customer retention, and healthy unit economics. It's like we're flooring the gas pedal without even checking if the car is on the right road.
And this quote just nails it. If your business model is unprofitable when you're small, throwing more servers at the problem doesn't fix the model. It just helps you burn through your cash faster. You're not creating efficiency, you're automating and accelerating financial chaos.
And this isn't just some theory, okay? The numbers back it up. Research shows that, on average, there's a 32% optimization potential in cloud spending. 32%. That's nearly a third of the budget just being left on the table because of this disconnect between our tech ops and our financial reality. It's a massive, quantifiable cost.
So, how do we fix this? We have to build a bridge. We need to create systems that are not just technically aware, but financially aware. It's time to connect our technology directly to the wallet.
And this starts by completely redefining a word we hear all the time: right-sizing. For way too long, we've thought of it as just a cost-cutting chore. But the real goal is strategic. Like Chris Argent from Gen CFO says, it's about applying the right resources to actually grow revenues. It's an offensive move, not just a defensive one.
Yeah, this image really captures the new mindset perfectly. A financially aware infrastructure, it does more than just handle traffic. It actively protects and manages the company's money. The wallet isn't an afterthought anymore. It's a primary input signal.
Okay, so we've covered the why. Now let's get into the fun part, the how. We're going to actually outline a practical architecture for what we can call the burn rate agent, a system that makes this whole financially aware infrastructure thing a reality.
And the architecture is surprisingly simple. It all kicks off with a revenue event. Let's say a Stripe webhook that tells you about a new subscription or maybe a cancellation. A server grabs that signal, figures out the new monthly recurring revenue, and then applies some really simple logic. If the revenue drops below a certain point, the agent just executes a change by calling a cloud provider's API.
And here's what that logic could literally look like. It is not complex. It's just, if my monthly recurring revenue drops below $5,000, call the Amazon RDS API function, modify DB instance, and downgrade my database to a cheaper T4G.micro instance. Boom. It's a direct, automated link between your revenue and your infrastructure cost. This isn't science fiction. That is a real API call you can make.
And I know what you're probably thinking. Okay, but where do you inject this logic? Well, the tools already exist.
What you're looking at here is an AWS lifecycle hook. It lets you run a custom action, like a Lambda function, that checks your revenue before an instance gets put into service or gets terminated. It's the perfect moment to ask, hey, can we actually afford this new server right now?
So, at the end of the day, this isn't just about some clever technical trick. It really is a fundamental, philosophical shift in how we think about the role and the responsibility of our infrastructure.
We need to move from a mindset of pure value extraction, squeezing every last drop of performance out of our systems, to one of stewardship. Our job as architects and engineers should be to act as responsible stewards of the business's resources, both technical and financial. Wasted ad spend and idle servers, that's a failure of that stewardship.
So I'll just leave you with this final thought. We've built these incredibly sophisticated systems that listen and react to every single spike and dip in traffic. It's amazing. But what could you build if your infrastructure listened not just to your servers, but to your sales calls, your customer support tickets, your supply chain, your entire business? Now that's the future.